Hi, my name is Daudi Mugabi and this is Business Mike episode 11. My guest today is Nuba Elamin. She's one of the co-founders of an African-inspired footwear brand called Buqisi-Ruux. In this episode, Nuba shares her one-year experience as a business owner and provides some advice from her journey thus far. All this and more next on Business Mike. Thank you very much, Nuba, for taking the time to join us today on Business Mike.
Thank you, Daudi. It's nice to be here.
Could you briefly tell us who you are and what you do?
My name is Nuba Elamin. I am one of the co-founders of an African-inspired footwear brand called Buqisi-Ruux, and I am also the head of operations for the company.
And do you have any business role models?
Good question. I do, but off the top of my head, there's a gentleman called Mark Caramera. I don't know if you've heard of him. If you haven't, you should meet him. He's definitely one of my role models. He's a very young guy, very focused, very hungry, and very calm and humble. And yeah, definitely, I admire him.
What does he do?
He has a cab company called Spe, and he also has Dial a Service. I don't want to explain what those are in detail, just in case I don't do justice to, but yeah. You can maybe have a look at them.
Could you briefly tell us about Buqisi-Ruux?
So Buqisi-Ruux is, as I said, an African-inspired footwear brand. We focus on heels. And by African-inspired, I mean that we use kitenge, or African print fabric, to make our heels. But more importantly, I think Buqisi-Ruux is a platform that wants to tell positive stories of African women and get away from your narrative of the woman in the village who's earning $1 a day making baskets. Yeah, I always say that. So it's really a platform to tell those stories, and we name each shoe after an African woman and push that, yeah.
I've watched a few interviews whereby you explain the name Buqisi-Ruux. Mm-hmm. The Ruux bit of it I totally get because it's representative of where I come from, yes. Rukunjiri. Yes. The Buqisi bit of it from Egypt, could you expound on that? I
think we wanted something that was different and sounded different, and we worked on it for a long time. It took a long time for us to get a name. And we came across Buqisi, not Buqisi, Buqisi, which means queen. And because we wanted our brand to kind of signify that royalty feeling, we decided to go with the name, yeah. It's just an idea that was pitched to us, and we bought it.
Yes. Yeah, I've always been curious.
Yeah.
You specialize in high heels. Why high heels, and what do they symbolize to you?
Two reasons. On the business side of things, I think we saw that there was a gap in the market. A lot of people were doing flat kitenge shoes rather. Not a lot of people are doing heels, at least at that quality where they're manufactured, right? So there was a gap in the market, and we wanted to tap into that. Why heels? I don't know if I can explain this to a man so they understand, but when a woman puts on a pair of shoes, like it literally immediately, you even walk straight and you walk with confidence, and you feel like you're in control of what's going on. It's so, and we wanted women to feel like that and make sure that our brand represents that. So I guess that's one of the reasons we decided to do heels.
Now, obviously, you, Tetsi, and Lynn have been in business for just over a year, I believe.
Yes.
Having started your own business, what are some of the roles or responsibilities that you've had to take on that caught you by surprise? Some of the things you find yourself doing now that you never imagined you'd be doing?
Let me speak for myself, first of all, because I don't want to speak for the other girls. But finance, money, I hate numbers. And I never thought that in my wildest dreams I'd have to sit down with an Excel sheet and try and figure out, if this makes sense. I never thought I would do that. My background is in international development. I always envisioned myself being in somewhere like Gulu and working on a project with humanitarian organizations. So I never thought I'll do numbers. So that's definitely something that caught me by surprise.
One thing I've noticed, having interviewed 10 other guests, is that the accounting bit of it is something that always comes
Really?
up. Yes.
Yeah. I think I heard one of your guests saying something similar.
Yes.
Yeah.
So based on that, like what advice would you give someone? So someone could be listening right now who wants to start their own business. As far as the accounting bit goes, what can they do to prepare themselves for their business?
Read. Like, literally get all the books you can and start going through them and just get the basics and get the foundation. You don't, if numbers are not your thing, right, you don't have to know the nitty-gritty. You can get an accountant to do that, but you have to know the basics. You have to know the simple things. What's your break-even point, you know? What are your margins, things like that. And I mean, these days with the internet and the resources that we have, you can do that. I personally went and took a course with the Business Development Center, an entrepreneurship course, for the reason that I wanted to make sure that I understood the numbers. Because some people, you know, you can read, but then it doesn't really sink in. You want someone to explain it to you. So that really helped me. So I did that. So it's an option as well.
In all the interviews I've had you do, I can't quite remember you taking us to that exact moment when the three of you decided, you know what, we're now going to start a business. Were you having breakfast? Were you in the shower?
Yes,
were you driving? At what point in time did you decide this should get out of our heads and materialize?
I remember, I mean, I smile every time I think about it. I remember the exact moment. Lynn and I were sitting at the breakfast table, and we're like, we need to do something for ourselves. I've told this story a couple of times, but we're looking for jobs. So in the search of, you know, trying to figure out what to do and waiting for someone to give us that phone call and tell us that we've got a job, we decided to do something for ourselves. So we sat at the breakfast table, literally, and just started thinking, what can we do? What are we passionate about? What drives us? And Lynn loves shoes, you know, and I love everything that has to do with Africa and the opportunities and the culture and the traditions. So we kind of put those two things together. And I remember Lynn and myself running up the stairs, getting the kitenge we had in the closet and putting it around a shoe to see what it would look. And we're like, I even have pictures. And with Lynn on the floor with the kitenge wrapped on one of her heels, and we're like, wow, we need to do that. But obviously, me and her didn't have the creative background, so we needed Tetsi to come in. So yeah, that moment. So we called Tetsi and we're like, listen, we need to do this. We need you to come on board because you're the creative person, and the rest is, here we are.
And did everything go according to plan from the start?
Absolutely not. Nothing ever goes according to plan. We had plans and a vision on how things would go, and it definitely didn't go according to plan. I'm not saying that we're happy with the way things are going, and we have a long way to go. But a lot of things came as we're taking the journey that we never expected, yeah.
Did any of you have experience in that particular industry?
The shoe industry?
Yes.
No, not the shoe industry. None of us had experience in the shoe industry. But I mean, Tetsi is a very creative. She does. She's in the fashion industry. So she is able to really come in and help us in terms of the creative side and how the shoes should look. So yeah, so we had her, thankfully.
And what advice would you give anyone out there who's listening who perhaps wants to start a business, but they're hesitating, they have maybe self-doubt, or maybe they're scared that they might fail? What encouragement would you give someone like that?
Plan before you start, right? Make sure you sit down. Numbers are so important. I never thought that they were as important as I have realized over the last couple of months. But plan and make sure that your idea makes business sense, right? Because a lot of people, which might have been one of the mistakes that we made, and I can say that openly, is that you need to have passion. We're very passionate about what we're doing. We're very excited about what we're doing. But it took us a couple of months to really go into it and say, does this make business sense? So make sure you plan and make sure that your idea actually makes business sense. I think that's one of the biggest advices I could give.
And what's your happiest moment at Buqisi-Ruux?
My happiest moment was when we got our first consignment of shoes. So Lynn at this point had a job, so she was at work. I was still at home. So I went, I was at home waiting for the truck to come with the shoes. I sat and I told Lynn, the shoes are here. should I wait for you before I open the box? Because I want us to be together. Yeah, she was like, Nuba, don't even think about opening them. Wait for me. This was like at 10 in the morning. I'm like, okay. So I'm just sitting there looking at these boxes. And I'm like, by midday, I was like, I can't sit here. So I went and I cheated and I went and I opened a box of shoes. And literally, I have never been so happy. Like, it was a beautiful shoe. And for some odd reason, it was my size. So I took it straight to my room and put it in my closet. But I think that's one of my happiest moments. Yeah, definitely.
And how is your business model right now different from the one you had in the beginning? Is it the exact same model, or have you tweaked it a bit?
We've definitely tweaked it based on what we've learned along the way. Initially, when we started, I'll give you one example. We wanted to open up a store in Nairobi and start that way. We already identified a store. We were about to make a down payment. And then we realized that we've just started. We don't have that kind of money to invest in a store. What if it doesn't work out? So it would have been a very big risk. So we had to change that model. And what we do now is we find stores that are already in place and use that as a channel to distribute our shoes. So that's something that completely changed. Yeah, rather than having opened our own store.
From your journey thus far, are there any cool stories that you'd like to share with us that you've experienced on your entrepreneurial journey?
Cool stories that I've experienced?
Yeah.
Wow, I don't know. Cool story. Can we come back to that?
Yeah, no problem.
I can't think off the top of my head. No. I don't know what cool is, so. Yeah.
Oh, interesting, remarkable.
I'll come back to that question, yes.
No problem. Well, in our pre-interview chat, you were discussing podcasts. What is it about podcasts that you love? Because prior to meeting you, I sent you an email and you said, yes, I really love what you're doing. I'm into podcasting as well. What is it about podcasts that you think can help entrepreneurs in Africa?
I mean, I'm a big fan of having different platforms where we can tell stories and share what we're doing, right? And that's one of the things Buqisi-Ruux does. As I said, we use Buqisi-Ruux as a platform to tell stories of women. What I love about podcasts is, for example, myself, I have a bunch of podcasts on my phone. And I cannot sleep without listening to a podcast. And usually it's a business type of podcast. I think what you're doing is amazing. I think that we need to tell more of our own stories and like I said to you before, and stop referring to, for example, in the business field, referring to the Richard Bransons of this world, when we have our own people, not only in Africa but in Uganda, who have had similar success, who we can relate to, especially with the context, our African context. So I'm a big fan of podcasts. I think it's just a very important platform, especially for young people who are really trying to, with the high rates of unemployment, trying to find what to do so that they can hear other people who are doing the same and be inspired. So congratulations. As I said, I love what you do.
Thank you. Yeah, I was inspired by podcasts as well. One thing I love about them is how much you learn. For instance, I've discovered so many books from podcasts alone, and those books have given me business experience and expertise. I'll never forget a book called The E-Myth. This is a book that talks about what goes wrong with startups, why they misfire and end up failing in the long run. And it's because of their business models and business structures, how you need to have a job description for every role, even if you're doing everything yourself. That way when you get an employee or someone to help you, they just slot right in. So simple things like that I've learned from various books as well. So for me, podcasting I'm doing a podcast now, which shows you how much of an impact they've had on me. And I've also had the opportunity to meet very many people. I've now networked with so many business owners, and hopefully I can find a way of linking them together so that they can build their businesses and have an even greater impact on society. So it's really something dear to me, and I hope people can really get into more and more podcasts, not just this one, but there's so many out there.
So we should exchange podcasts. So tell me what you listen to and I'll tell you what, so that I can download.
Sure, I can tell you right now. My favorite podcast, Entrepreneur on Fire.
Entrepreneur on Fire.
Yes,
okay.
By a gentleman called John Lee Dumas. He does one every day. Every day of the week he has an episode out. Okay. I don't know how he does it, but somehow he manages, and he's been doing it for 2 years. Yeah. Another one I like is Smart Passive Income by Pat Flynn. It's another brilliant one.
I almost can't sleep without listening to something. It's always under my pillow, just waiting for the phone to blow in my ear one day.
You mentioned networking in business. What is it about networking that is so important? Could you just give us maybe a particular example of how in your business networking has had a positive impact?
I think that networking is one of the most important things in business because, we're all linked somehow, right? So you meet one person who then introduces you to somebody else who you have to, I don't even know how to explain it. But I mean, everybody that we have met in our business has been linked to somebody else, right? You meet somebody who knows somebody who's able to do. So I think networking is important. And beyond that, you learn from people. Like I don't have any background in business at all. Everything that I have learned and I have done is from other people. Somebody says one thing and you're like, oh, really? You can do that? I just the other day I was in class and there was a gentleman who was telling us about like how to make sure that our brochures or our vouchers, you have to add value. You can't just give somebody a brochure like that, right? Because they'll throw it away. So why not have a brochure with like a 10% discount so that they always keep it and they can use it later? Small things like that. I met this gentleman from somebody else, right? Small things like that. You have an aha moment and you're like, you know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to use that. So you learn from other people. And it's helped us through this journey, definitely, and where we are. Yeah.
Have you read a book called Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi?
No, I haven't.
It's about networking, and he basically expounds on how to build a network, just like you've said, and how it's beneficial to always have value in your network.
Yeah.
He started out as a caddy when he was young. His father was poor, and by the end of the book, he's one of the most powerful networkers with celebrities and some political figures as well.
Oh, really?
And all this because he knows people, and what he does, his value is linking those people. It's getting one person in field X and telling them, oh, you need to meet person in field Y. They do this, you guys can do something together. And the two come together and they really appreciate it, and his value goes up and up and up. And that's how he's built his network. It's a fascinating book that I would recommend anyone to read.
You cannot, you can't make it alone. That's the thing. You need people. I always say that. It's so important. Partnerships, collaborations are so important, and you only do that if you can. I'm very shy, so networking was such a hard thing for me to do. It's such a hard thing for me to do, but it's such an important thing to do.
During my interview with Philip from the Pearl Guide, we touched on this a bit, and
another amazing guy.
It really highlights the power of collaboration, because up until he really tapped into collaboration as a powerful technique. They weren't doing that well, but once he did so, things like Discover Uganda, where he worked with Media 256, Admire, and a sound studio. Then obviously Kampala Restaurant Week, where he had the various restaurants and yourselves as well. So it's that coming together that helps you build something remarkable. And my podcast as well, I can't have a podcast where I just talk into the microphone. I need guests like yourself to share that experience and add value to people that are listening. So I would say really collaborating and networking are like really, really powerful.
So powerful. So powerful.
What does the future hold for Buqisi-Ruux?
Right now, short term, we are working on our next couple of shoe lines. We want to release a few shoes. I think that's definitely something that is exciting for us right now. The future, we want to make sure that Buqisi-Ruux is available across the continent. Again, sharing those stories and sharing good quality Kitenge shoes and making sure that they're accessible. So we're trying to see if we can break into different markets. Yeah, and then hopefully have our own manufacturing factory here for heels. I think that's the grand vision, and that, yeah.
Have you heard of NZ Wear from Ethiopia? Yeah, Philip told me about them, and I really find their story inspiring. Yeah. They make their own shoes locally in Ethiopia?
Yes, they do. They make their own shoes locally. You said you had asked before about one of the things that changed, right? Yes. As we were starting. So when we started, I remember that day when we were sitting on the table, and as we brainstormed the idea further the next few weeks after we started, we wanted to have a Made in Africa stamp on our shoes. We wanted our shoes to be made here. Unfortunately, with the challenges of there are manufacturing factories in Africa a lot, but a lot of them do flat shoes, men's shoes. You can't find one that does, and if there's one out there, I would literally run to them, that does a variety of high heels, especially trying to keep in trend with the fashion and all that. You don't find any manufacturing factories that do that. I think we identified one in Ethiopia, but they only do large quantities of like 20,000 and above. And I actually contacted somebody at Enzi, a gentleman who I wanted advice and see how they do what they do, and whether he could guide us to anybody in Ethiopia who does heels and manufactures from there, and it's not available. So yeah.
So that cool story that we referred to earlier, has it come to mind?
The cool story! Wow! Let me see what a cool story is. Wow, it's so hard. I'm just trying to figure out like what would be cool. I don't want to tell you a story and you're like, that's not cool.
We'll edit it out.
We'll edit it out. Okay. I think maybe meeting.
Oh, there was a celebrity that put on your shoes.
Yeah. Okay. Does that
That's a cool
is that a
story.
cool story?
Yes.
Okay. So Stella Mwangi, right? I remember there was a day we met a lady, again networking. There's a lady that we met who was doing a photo shoot, styling Stella Mwangi for a photo shoot, and she was looking for some shoes. She came across us, came to the house, and she was like, oh, there's a lady who wants to get a few shoes. Her name is Stella Mwangi. Didn't really know who she was until I heard her music. I was like, oh, that's the Stella Mwangi, but I didn't know who she was. Anyway, then she comes to the house, and she's so relaxed and so humble, and she's walking around trying on a few shoes. And then later when she leaves, I'm like, hey, this is Stella Mwangi. Stella Mwangi has just been in my house. So yeah, I had a little after shock and kind of having a celebrity in the house. Is that a cool story?
That is a cool story.
Okay.
I'll put my stamp of approval.
I'm going to have to make sure that I get some cool stories so that when somebody asks me again, I have a cool story.
Cool stories make for good interviews.
Yeah.
What's your favorite shoe out of all the lines you've produced?
Kitami. It's the first, that story I told you about, the first shoe I got, and it's the first shoe I saw. It was in my size. It's my favorite shoe, the Kitami. But I also like Samali, and I also like the Atamba. I don't know. Those three. Can I give you top three? Kitami, Atamba, and Samali. Yes.
Right. So, lastly, if you were the host of this show and I was your guest, what is the one question you'd ask me if this were your podcast?
I feel like we've talked a little bit before the podcast, but where do you see this going?
I really want to create a platform that showcases people in business, particularly young businesses, in a way that other platforms don't. For instance, on TV, if you notice, most of the showcasing of entrepreneurs is very limited in time to maybe 10 minutes. And on radio, it's the same thing. And they don't really get an opportunity to discuss in depth the way we have right now. So getting to know the person behind the brand, in my opinion, is really important. Because up until you hear that person speak and share with you their struggles and know where they stand as a human being, someone you can relate to, you see their vulnerabilities and their strengths. In a way, it paints a picture about you and your brand that is more relatable and likable. So platforms like this help entrepreneurs put themselves out there in a way that other platforms don't. And it's my goal and dream to help as many people as I can. Yeah. I want to become kind of like the Oprah, but for like business kind of thing.
Yeah. That's great.
And that really is my dream, whereby anyone that somehow gets onto my podcast, their business explodes. Yeah. I'd really, really love to see people build on their success thanks to my podcast. That's my dream.
Who are your top 5 guests that you really, really, really want to have on?
That's the second question.
Okay, so okay.
But I'll answer it.
Okay. I'm about to ask a third and fourth one.
No, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. One of the people that inspires me a lot is Elon Musk.
Okay.
the founder of Tesla and SpaceX and PayPal. Yeah, so why I love this guy is because his brain is unique in that he has various industries in which he's amongst the top leaders. For instance, PayPal was a payment mechanism which he founded with someone else, and then he moved to Tesla, which was an electric sports car. After that, he went to SpaceX because apparently when the rockets go up to space, there's a lot of wastage. Sometimes they leave debris, and then the landing and all that is complicated and very, very costly. So he designed a rocket that would go up and somehow land itself back without wasting any parts, which he is successfully doing and has managed to reduce the cost by 90%. Yeah, so that is definitely someone who I would kill to have on my show. The other four, I'm really struggling. I would say,
It's okay, we can do one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I've really,
Okay.
that's the one guy I'd really love to have. Lastly, where can people get in touch with Buqisi-Ruux? How can they find out more about Buqisi-Ruux on social media, website, and all that?
We have a website with an online store that we have started about a week and a half ago. It's on www.buqisi, which is BUQISI-RUUX.com, buqisiroux.com. We're also on Instagram, Buqisi_Ruux, Facebook, Buqisi-Ruux, Twitter, Buqisi@Buqisi_Ruux. And you can get our shoes at Bold in Kampala, Acacia Mall. And we're also at Kungara, Kenya, which is in Karen, at Karen Plains Arcade. So the shoes are also available there.
For people listening to this that aren't necessarily in Africa, can they have those shoes delivered to them?
Absolutely, yeah. We do international deliveries. You just go on the website and make your order. You can also email us on info@buqisiroux.com. Yeah, we do deliveries, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Nuba. I really appreciate this. And I'm really inspired by what you girls are doing. I really wish you the very best. And I hope to see you inspire many more people and have a very, very big global brand.
Thank you very, very much. And we also wish you the best of luck. I think what you're doing is amazing as well. So yeah, let's grow together.
Thank you for your time, Nuba.
Great.
Thank you so much for listening to Business Mike today. And if you'd like to listen to more episodes just like this one, simply go to businessmike.com. For all the links and resources mentioned in this particular episode, simply type the name Nuba, that's N-U-B-A, into the search bar to access her show notes page. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, take care.